I didn't waste my life. That's the worst part. I did everything I should have done and I still feel empty. And before you assume anything, no, this is not a breakdown. I am not lost. I am not unemployed. I am not alone. That's what makes it difficult to explain. Because if I were any of those things, at least I'd have a reason. At least there would be something broken that I could point to and say, that's why. But there isn't. Everything is in its place. Everything is working. And that's exactly the problem.
From the outside, my life looks fine. Steady work, routine, plans, people who depend on me. Nothing is falling apart. And yet, nothing feels like it's actually happening. I go through the motions every single day, and somewhere along the way, I stopped noticing that I wasn't really present anymore. I wasn't really choosing anything. I was just continuing, maintaining, without ever asking myself if I actually wanted to live in it. There's no catastrophe here, no dramatic turning point. Just this quiet, persistent sense that I'm watching my own life from a distance. Like I'm a passenger in a car that's driving itself, and I forgot I was supposed to be holding the wheel. I see myself going to work, coming home, checking things off lists, having conversations that don't mean anything, making plans that feel automatic. You know what I mean? I'm performing the actions, but the person doing them doesn't feel like me anymore. No one warns you about this version of life. The one where everything works, but nothing feels real. You wake up tired, not because you didn't sleep, but because every day feels the same. Not bad, just flat. Like someone turned down the volume on everything. The highs aren't really high. The lows aren't even low enough to shake you awake. Nothing demands your attention because nothing is technically wrong. And that becomes the problem, because when nothing is wrong, you don't have permission to feel the way you feel. You don't have a reason to be unsatisfied. So you tell yourself you're being ungrateful, dramatic, selfish even. You look around at people who have real problems and you think, who am I to complain? My life is fine. And it is. It's fine. Looking back, I can see the mistake now. But at the time, it didn't look like a mistake. It looked like responsibility, like maturity, like doing the right thing. I made choices that were practical, safe. I chose stability over risk. I chose what made sense on paper. I built a life that other people could respect, that I could explain at a dinner table without feeling embarrassed. And in doing that, I stopped asking myself what I actually wanted. The difference between what looks good and what feels true. That's how it gets you. Not all at once. Not with some big, obvious wrong turn. It's a series of small, reasonable compromises. A little less spontaneity. A little more predictability. A little less of you. A little more of what's expected. And each compromise feels minor in the moment, so you don't resist it. You don't even notice it. As you don't recognize the life you're living. You don't recognize yourself in it. You became someone sensible, someone reliable, someone who doesn't cause problems. And somewhere in that transformation, you forgot to stay someone who actually feels things. I kept telling myself, this is just a phase. Later will feel different. Once I get there, I'll breathe. But there keeps moving, and the breathing never comes. Obligation, another thing I have to get through before I'm allowed to relax, to feel, to live the way I thought I would. I kept postponing my own existence, like it was something I'd get around to eventually, once everything else was handled. But everything else is never handled. There's always more. And while I was waiting for the right moment to start living, years passed. Actual years. Silence, threes. You don't notice it happening. Feel. You stop checking in. You stop wondering if this is what you want, because asking that question feels dangerous. It feels destabilizing. So you just don't. You keep your head down. You keep moving. And the noise of daily life drowns out that quiet voice that's trying to tell you something's off. The realization didn't come during a crisis. It came on a normal day. Nothing special happened. That was the problem. In the same place, in the same routine, and it hit me. If this is my life now, when exactly does it start? Silence. Twos. When does the part begin where I feel something? Where I'm excited to wake up? Where I'm not just managing, but actually experiencing? I always thought there would be a moment when everything clicked into place, when I'd feel like I made it, like I arrived, like I could finally exhale. But that moment never came. Remarkable afternoon, I realized it might never come. Because I was waiting for permission from some external force to feel fulfilled, to feel alive, and that permission doesn't exist. No one's going to tap me on the shoulder and say, "Okay, now you can start living." This is it. This has always been it. And I was spending it waiting for conditions that would never be perfect enough, waiting for a version of myself that felt ready to feel. But it doesn't work that way. Life doesn't announce itself. It just happens, quietly, in the background, while you're busy preparing for it. We're taught to fear failure. No one teaches us to fear comfort. Comfort doesn't scare you. It numbs you. It convinces you that because nothing is wrong, nothing needs to change. And that might be the most dangerous lie we tell ourselves, because change doesn't only come from crisis. From the simple, uncomfortable acknowledgement that just because something is comfortable doesn't mean it's right. Comfort can be a trap just as much as chaos can. Maybe even more so, because at least chaos forces you to act. Comfort lets you stay still. It lets you confuse stability with satisfaction. It whispers that you should be grateful for what you have, and you should, but gratitude and fulfillment aren't the same thing. You can be thankful for your life and still recognize that it's not the one you actually want to be living. Those two things can coexist, and pretending they can't just keeps you stuck. At some point, I realized I wasn't making choices anymore. I was maintaining a system, a version of myself that worked, but wasn't alive. I became efficient, reliable. I showed up, I delivered. But somewhere in all of that, I stopped being a person and started being a function. Around me thought I was doing great, because I was. On every measurable level, I was succeeding. I was doing what I was supposed to do, and that made it so much harder to admit that something was wrong. Because how do you explain to people that you're struggling when your life looks fine? How do you tell them that you feel empty when you have everything you're supposed to want? You can't, so you don't. You smile. You say you're good. You keep going. Think you are just gets wider and wider until you're not even sure which version is real anymore. The functional one that shows up every day, or the hollow one that sits alone at night wondering how it got here. I started noticing small things. The way I'd catch myself staring at nothing. The way certain songs didn't hit the same anymore, and realize I hadn't been listening. Not really, because some part of me had checked out a long time ago and never came back. Little fractures in the performance, little moments where the mask slipped and I could see what was underneath, or rather, what wasn't. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I don't have a plan. I don't have 5 steps. I don't have some revelation that fixed everything, because I'm still in the middle of this. I know this much. Ignoring that quiet emptiness doesn't make it go away. It just makes it harder to hear yourself later. It becomes background noise. This constant hum of dissatisfaction that you learn to live with, that you convince yourself is just part of being an adult. But it's not. It's a signal. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it has to get to reach you. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if there is one universal answer. Doesn't protect you. It just delays the reckoning. And the longer you delay it, the more of yourself you lose in the process. The more years pass where you're not really living, just existing in the shape of a life that made sense once but doesn't anymore. And maybe that's okay for some people. Maybe some people can make peace with that, but I couldn't. I can't. Silence twos. And if you're watching this, maybe you can't either. That's okay. Maybe you're watching this and thinking I'm overthinking or being melodramatic, or that I just need to appreciate what I have. And maybe you're right. But if something in you recognizes this feeling, don't rush to fix it. Don't immediately try to explain it away or rationalize it or cover it back up with distractions. Just sit with it for a second. Let yourself feel it, because that feeling is information. And you deserve to listen. You deserve to acknowledge that even if everything looks fine, if it doesn't feel fine, that matters. That counts. That's real. If any part of this felt familiar, you don't have to explain it. Just write present in the comments. Just don't pretend you didn't hear it.